a lot of focus on the fact that the shooter was born a boy but identified recently as a girl. He changed his name several years ago from Robert to Robin. You have said it's not important to villainize the trans community, but couldn't it also be true that his or her gender dysphoria may have played a role here?
Hey y'all, today I'm going to be reading the Amana electric dryer user manual. Dryer safety. Your safety and the safety of others are very important.
I am going to absolutely lose it if I hear another person saying thoughts and prayers. There were children in the United States praying.
I imagine that you are so angry right now. And it is going to be so hard for you to see my community as safe.
The tragedy that happened in Minnesota is awful. And we should never normalize, or please don't ever be desensitized.
Hello guys, David Vos. Beautiful day. Man, oh man, it's just wonderful. There are clouds coming, probably get some rain again. It's been raining, the garden is just blowing up. And it's nice and cool. I really am enjoying it. The chickens are having a great time. Dogs are up on the hill barking at some, I don't know, coyote or something in the distance. And all is well in love and war. And I have got to share something with you today that I think is so important. I was telling somebody yesterday that this information is so critical to the well-being of all of humanity, and it is a knowledge that is in plain sight that everyone subconsciously knows, and yet is being MK Ultra mind controlled into thinking it's not real, but it's below the surface that everyone knows this information. I don't think there's a person on the planet that does not know the information that I'm going to share with you, and yet none of you knows it consciously. You're purposely ignoring it, and you know, I've said that before, that people are doing this. This time, or today, I'd like to explain that it's not your fault. You are hypnotized. You are in a lethargic, hypnotic trance, and you could not save your soul if you wanted to. And this is why we need the great awakening, the great enlightenment. And as the Bible says, we can't have that until we see the revealing of the man of sin, the revelation of what sin is, and that man of sin, which is the carnal ego, the lower conscious carnal mind. Until we understand that it is the deceiver and it is destroying us, we will never come out of this darkness. I'm going to give you some information today that is going to wake you up if you are willing to be woken. If you will listen to it, it will trigger something. I will snap my fingers, and at the count of 3, you will all come back to a awakened state. And you will no longer be hypnotized or mesmerized by the MK Ultra mind control being administered to you. And when that happens, if you are truly awake, you will recognize and act to save your soul and all those around you. This literally, what I'm going to share with you is the awakening. It is the awakening. If you do not get it today, you will and you must get it, even though it may come by fire. It may take the fire to wake you up. When you're thrown into that lake of fire, which is coming upon the entire world, you know, you've got a sea of glass like crystal that's coming after Christ returns. But right now we've got a sea of fire, or a lake of fire, and it's covering the world. And the Apostle Paul, and the Apostle Peter, I should say, says that the elements, the elemental spirits, hate, jealousy, anxiety, greed, is the mind or spirit, the invisible power, the spirit of the power of the air that is in this system or order or cosmos that we are in presently, this particular age, which is ruled over by the deity of this world or this age. And that deity is blinding the minds of unbelievers. Today, I want you to become a believer. I want you to believe in the love of Christ in you. I want you to believe that ye are the Elohim and that you have died like men. But now you must hear the admonition to awake and return unto the truth. Repent and tell the good news to all you see and be a light, a beacon on a hill, and share this with everyone. Hopefully, this is it. Hopefully, you and those that you will inform will be snatched out of the fire, and you will not have to go through this great time of tribulation and trouble that the world is about to be thrown into. All you got to do is receive the love. That's the mind of the divine being. And it's the love of what? What do we love? We love the truth. We do not want the lies. And if you'll receive the love of the truth, you will be saved, which word means delivered. And many times it's followed by from the wrath to come. Delivered from the wrath that's coming. The wrath that's coming is coming from the deity of vengeance, whose name is jealous, who will put a mark upon your hand or your forehead that you might comply with his Torah. Read it in Exodus and Deuteronomy, where you must write the law upon your hand or your forehead. It is a compliance. But those of us who have the seal of the living deity, which is the mind of Christ, which is love, which is the Holy Spirit, we are the ones that will be standing, playing on our 10-string harp, the harp of David. I just heard that song the other day. It says, hallelujah, where David is playing his harp, and it's a beautiful song. Although I'm not quite sure what the meaning of it is in that particular context in that song. But friends, let me get right into it. This thing that just happened up there in Minneapolis. As you know, that is the city of Minnesota, and the governor is Tim Walz. And Tim Walz was running for vice president with Kamala Harris. You know that he was involved in the trans, movement and the liberalization. And there's laws in Minnesota that they can, do this to your children when they're in like 5th grade or something. I don't even know the law, but it's something, this is going on. Trump wants to stop it. And instead of just telling people we're going to stop it, they are putting this propaganda out. This is a orchestrated event. And I'll tell you why after I talk a little bit more about this. So I'm going to go off into an area here where you're going to have to put your thinking cap on. The shooting that just occurred in Minneapolis, which is the largest city in Minnesota. So Opolis is the Greek way of saying a city, or the police, or the politics, or the political area called the city. It was the last part of all the words that have to do with cities, like Heliopolis. So Minnie is the first part of that Minneapolis, and Minnie is the first part of Minnesota. So in this state of Minnesota, the governor is this guy named Walz, who was the running mate to Kamala Harris, the vice presidential running mate to Kamala Harris. You probably heard a lot about him. There's been a lot of accusations running around about him. He seems to have a lot to do with the gay pride movement and transgenderism. Now, this, as you know, I have said before, and lots of people have noticed it, it's pretty hard to talk about on here, but I believe that a lot of things in this world, we'll just say a lot of things, we're not going to say what, but a lot of things in this country are politically motivated, orchestrated, like advertisement, like methods to do something political. You have a political event, you have a school, something or other. You have a mass murder, or you have a national news event that goes for weeks and weeks, and everybody's like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. People must be evil. Like, who would do such things? Well, it's all orchestrated in order to promote some kind of feelings and ideas in the public that would garner the approval of the public when they went ahead and made some new law. So certain SHOOTINGs that are at little schools with children might engender people to have the idea that we should get rid of the GUNs or the Second Amendment, whichever you like, take your choice. So why are we now having another event? An SHOO. You may supply the last letters for yourself, but why are we having another one? Well, this individual is targeting a Catholic church. They're the victims, the Catholic Church, and the perpetrator is a young transgendered boy who wants to be a girl. And it's obvious that Trump and Bondi and Kash Patel and all of these guys seem to be very mad and obstinate about the fact that he was transgender. We're not going to use the word she, right? We're going to say he because he's a boy. Okay, I agree. Why shouldn't we call him a boy since he is a boy? However, in past administrations, we didn't do that. Biden and Kamala and Waltz and all these other people would certainly be very upset if you called this young man a man because he wants to be a girl. And they were in the state of Minnesota, probably facilitating operations on particular young people, if you know what I'm saying. Now, Trump wants to do something about that and get rid of the ability for any doctor to perform these mutilating operations. And he needs public opinion to approve of his actions. So if you notice, Trump has been doing these things like, little trial runs, bring out the National Guard, the military, storm DC. Now he's going to, I think he's going to Chicago next, he says, and then on to the next city. Could that be Minneapolis? Well, that's a liberal state, or at least a liberal governor, who is doing the transgenderism and so forth. He needs public opinion to stop it. If the whole country's outraged, then his friends down at the Supreme Court can certainly back him up when he makes a executive order, and then Congress jumps in and creates a perpetual law that, that no doctor henceforth will ever be allowed legally to perform such mutilating operations. Now, I agree that no doctor should ever be allowed to operate on young people or old people or anybody that think they want to cut their foot off just because aesthetically it's a pleasing to footless people. Or, we shouldn't allow people to say, you know what, I'm thinking about having my head removed and put a cat head on it. Of course, I'll die. You guys, at least I'll get some pictures and, we'll put it on Facebook. And in my funeral, I'll look wonderful as this cat, right? And I'll have horns. I'll be a horned cat. No, that is illegal because you don't allow people to murder. No one should be allowed to murder anyone, not even themselves. And you're not supposed to assault or, hurt or or abuse people. I mean, anything that you do to others that would harm them, it should be illegal. So I agree with all that. The problem, I don't know about problem here, except that part's not a problem. The problem is that these individuals have this modus operandus. When they want something done, they lie to the public. They think you're too stupid to decide what you want. And they're pushing the agenda in this country through mass events and manipulating us like little, sheep in a pen, herding us into a pen. Where we're going, nobody seems to know. But he's got some nice little oats in a bucket for you if you'd like to follow, and a little bell around your neck when you get in there. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, so they can control and watch and monitor you for the rest of your existence until they get all that wool sheared off your hide. Then they're probably going to take you to market. Well, who is this Waltz to start with? We've just talked about the manipulation, the orchestration, and we've seen how members of Congress seem to be of a particular ethnic group. There seems to be so many of these, Adam Schiff, we got a Pelosi. A lot of these powerful people in the world are either Italian or of this other ethnic background that we will heretofore mention. But so Pelosi is the Italian name, and Chuck Schumer, is of this ethnic origin that we are going to discuss. And I'm not going to go through them, but you may do so if you will please. But all the members of Congress and the Senate seem to be individuals either being run and controlled by this ethnic gang organization, or they are hired and paid or bought by them. So who is this Waltz that runs this state, this liberal state that has encouraged this mutilating operations on children? Well, his name is Waltz, and he is of the lineage of a John Francis Reiser. So that's his lineage, Reiser. Now, it says that while the surname Reiser can have this ethnic origin, it's not exclusively of this ethnic origin. The Reiser family of John Francis Reiser has different origins. Well, the reason they say it is because he was baptized in the Catholic Church. Well, I want you to understand that the particular ethnic people that we're talking about took over the Catholic Church. And this is why all the popes wear beanie caps. So the royal bloods, or the people running the world like Lady Gaga and all the others, could be one of either of these ethnic groups. Which does not mean that all Italians are bad, or all, of any ethnic group is bad. What we're talking about is a particular family that are all related, that have a mafia style gang ironclad rule over the rest of mankind that we're going to demonstrate here today. And if you people don't think this is important enough to scatter this all over the world, promote it, share it, and go out and make another YouTube channel for yourself and put it up on your channel, just copy and paste it to some other place like Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or whatever you please. But please, let's tell the world what's going on. Now, my theory is that it's too neatly packaged. A transgender boy is supposedly murdering little Catholics that not very long ago we thought were run by pedophiles. Okay. Well, where birds of feather flock together, you see, they're all doing it. And as we saw the other day, Jehovah's Witnesses, headquartered in Brooklyn for many, many, many years, financed by the bankers, and all of their Watchtower Bible and Tract presidents and governing body members up to this point have all been of Germanic Bavarian origin, which is this Ashkenazi group, ethnic group. They run everything, everywhere, all the time. I think what we're going to see, if I am right, if this is an orchestrated theater, just as the wars are military theater, just as the news is a program of the CIA called Project Mockingbird, which was brought over. The projects and the operations started around World War II and was taken from the German projects and operations. It's just continued, discontinued by the Germans and continued by the Americans who came over in Project Paperclip and created Aleister Crowley and the other gangs and the mafias and the financial institutions and the Bar Association in London and the Black Robes and all the laws and the drug companies, whether legal or illegal, being run into your town, the oil that you can only buy from them using their dollar of exchange. Everything is run by this group, the Rothschild Institute, that married into the British royal family and infiltrated the Italian little group that was in Florence and produced, the ghetto. Remember, Elvis was of this ethnic origin and sung the song about his heritage, the ghetto, which was in Florence, Italy. Now, what are we to make of this? We're to make of this that we have some interesting things to ponder. Why is the governor of Minnesota of this lineage back to Reiser, probably Catholic, but could be of a particular Bavarian origin? And he's just into this little children and sexual things and liberal ideas and mutilation and bad things that we don't want to talk about. Trump's pretending to be the guy to clean it all up. He's going into D.C., he's going into Chicago, where Hillary's dad ran the mob. And now we're going to Minnesota. The mobster that runs that place is also connected. And they got to set this up for you. So they say, oh, transgenders are crazy. Maybe they are. But you don't need to lie to the public and manipulate our little minds. Why are we being manipulated like sheep? All diggity dang dong day. Friends, this has got to stop. People have got to wake up. There is a small group of individuals in the world manipulating your mind. And why is it that you've never, ever noticed that all these guys go back to some bloodline and they're all perpetrating and orchestrating events in order to manipulate your mind, and you're going along with it and you're believing it? You're mesmerized like those who want to get a mark upon their hand or their forehead. You just can't wait. You just can't wait, right? You've got no integrity, do you? And you certainly don't want to believe some crazy guy out there in the woods in New Mexico who tells you anything otherwise. But if you don't listen to me, you may not like me. You don't have to like me. But I'm telling you something, and for your own good, you need to hear what I'm saying. And if you don't plan on doing a darn thing about it, you ought to at least hear me and understand what's going on. If I'm right, over the next few days, weeks, or months, I don't know how fast these things can go, you will find a bill being brought to Congress or an executive order or something where we outlaw operations on children in this country. And that will be a good thing, and it will be praised and celebrated. But none of you will know that you've been led by your nose hairs through the Phil Donahue amusement ride down the crazy rabbit hole of, hey, let's debate whether or not we should murder our children or operate on our babies from the time that they're little. By the way, this operation thing upon little children, it's been going on for a long, long time. A lot of you are incensed by certain Muslim ideas that women, when some people somewhere in the world will take little girls when they're born and cut part of their little thingies, or mutilate part of their thingy so they can't have sex, or they certainly can't enjoy sex. And this is something that they do to make women chaste and morally acceptable to their god of vengeance. Can't be having any fun when you're having sex, even if it's your own husband, right? Well, you're all incensed by that, but none of you seem to think it's the least bit suspicious that when any boy is born in this world, they have to cut off his wee-wee, right? We have to circumcise them, a certain religious rite ceremony. And you might think, well, Dave, it's, I remember hearing this when I was little. Well, we're not under the law of Moses, per se, but we do it anyway. Why? Well, we believe in the principles. This God Yahweh is a wonderful man, this deity of vengeance, whose name is jealous. But he wants you to cut the end of your pee-pee off because it's more sanitary. You might get an infection of that foreskin might become infected. So you've got to get rid of it. It's got a fold or two, could get some bacteria in there. Well, without the foreskin, you can still get bacteria in there. I guarantee it. It has nothing to do with hygiene. What it has to do with is this angry, vengeful deity who wants human beings to not have any pleasure whatsoever in matrimony or with their wives and the wives with their husbands. A lot of you don't know this because almost all of you have been circumcised, so you have no clue. And my mother and father promptly did this to me when I was born as well. So, I'm only speaking from logic here, but I had a friend who actually had this, and I could see how it worked because, I took a little, a quick little peek once when we were, in a latrine one time, and I noticed something that outer skin, when you have it on there, when you have intercourse, I'm sorry about all these big words, friends, but when a man has intercourse with this outer skin, it's like you got lube, and it doesn't make your parts sore, nor does it make the woman sore, because it's like it doesn't scratch or it's not abrasive on the woman because it's a like a skin that just stays in one place and doesn't move or scrape or cause abrasion. Doesn't make the woman sore, nor does it make the man sore, because it's like imagine having a outer lubricated covering on yourself down there. Well, I probably could have explained that a lot better, and I don't know if any of you understood what I was talking about. It's a little embarrassing to talk about, I know. Try to understand what I'm trying to say. But it is literally evil. There is no benefit to do that procedure other than the non-benefit of making sex less pleasurable and even painful. So there's that. Now, this is only part of what I want to talk about, but the theme of what we're talking about, the gist of the whole thing, the story here is that what's going on is a sham. What has been going on in this world since 400 AD and beyond, when the true religion that you see all over this world, in every country, there are these temples And all of these temples have the same astrological, spiritual, esoteric wisdom truth that goes back to the Great Pyramid, the first of the great temples, that was the Pillar of Enoch, or built by Enoch, who our book of Enoch says was the Son of Man, who was to come and become the Messiah. And this is why the New Testament says that Jesus was crucified from the founding of the world, and we were all in Christ from the founding of the world. Because we came into the world, descended into an incarnation, and reincarnated until we eventually willingly went to the cross and made that trade, that sacrifice of the old carnal nature, that we might be awakened to a new nature in Christ. Something that not a soul on this earth understands, or any religion. However, it is what the esoteric wisdom is all about. So the theme is manipulation by a group of individuals that are ruling over us without us knowing it or being aware cognitively, but being mesmerized, hypnotized into this mind control that we're in. That is just the latest event in a series of events that we're going to show you here in a minute, that were all perpetrated on purpose, things that you thought were just coinkadinkle or tragedies that we had to deal with, and thank goodness we had the law, right? We could make laws to stop these tragedies. We had the military to stop these terrible things, like 9/11 and, Pearl Harbor even, the Bay of Pigs, all the different things that have happened, assassinations and so forth. It's all set up, orchestrated, absolutely, 100%, by a group that took over your country, creating the CIA and other agencies that secretly, clandestine governments that secretly control your mind, not just your politics, but they're controlling your very mind and manipulating you. It's like the Truman Show. And, I think they make movies like that. It was that very same guy that was running around flashing the pyramid signs and the upside down pyramids and crosses and so forth, and was talking about the 33rd and the pineal gland and stuff, just mocking you. Because this is information that's already been out there, and all of a sudden he comes on to, Johnny Carter, was it late night or whatever, and starts mocking it like it's a joke. And you thought he was serious, but they're mocking you. They know all of this stuff. That's why they turned the pyramid upside down. That's why they turned the cross upside down. Because the bottom of the wheel is the darkness, the evolutionary process, the world of the night that was ruled over by the deity of this world, the carnal, evil, bestial world. And they want us to go back into the Aquarian age backwards. No clock or calendar's ever gone backwards, and yet you believe we're going into the Aquarian age, ruled over by Saturn or Satan. The days of, like you're going to go out and get baptized all over again by John or January and go through these stages of this aqua, the depths, baptized through all these natures that you might overcome them all over again. But no, the night is far spent. The day is at hand. Let us go forward. Christ shall come out of the east like the sun and shine all the way into the west. This is the dawning of the day. I guarantee they know that. That's why the Star-Spangled Banner is the dawn's early light, which is on the top of the wheel. That's where we're going, not the bottom. They are liars. We are going into the age of Taurus, not the age of Aquarius. People, you need to wake up and start understanding that everything you're being told about the mysteries is upside down and backwards. But that doesn't mean that the mysteries aren't true. They are destroying your mind by keeping these mysteries from you, which would testify of Jesus Christ. But you do not know that. And they're keeping that from you, and they're manipulating you. making you believe and choose the deity of vengeance, and making you let them pull you along by your nose hairs, manipulating you like little dogs beneath their feet. You are their slaves, there to be the water carrier or the wood chopper. And I remember Jehovah's Witnesses used to believe that the people that we call Jehovah's Witnesses were the wood choppers and the water carriers for the anointed ones, which of course you're not. The anointed ones are just these individual barbarians that run the organization. They're the elite, and they're the only ones that get to go to heaven and have immortality. But you will have unending life depending on your obedience. And if you ever make a mistake, which all people do, bam, because you're not going to be changed and have a new nature in Christ. See, so you're just going to live, in this 1,000 years, they believe, where by the end of that 1,000 years, if you haven't done all the laws of Yahweh, you will die. The only ones that ever receive immortality to them, to the elite, is themselves. And they don't care that they deceive and lie to you because you're just a dog. That's what their book and their deity tells them. They're allowed to murder, steal, and plunder from you and lie to you. You see, because their deity is the deity of good and evil. He creates light and darkness. His name is jealous. And our Father in heaven is love. And the Apostle Paul says there is no jealousy in love. And John says that he's light and there is no darkness in him. And James says that he cannot be tempted, nor does he tempt any man. But yet Jesus was tempted in the wilderness for 40 days by the devil. And Israel was tempted for 40 years in the wilderness by Yahweh. Tested. The tester, the tempter, and the avenger. All wrapped up into one. The liar and the murderer, Jesus said. Your father, speaking to the Jewish Sanhedrin, your father is the liar and the devil and the murderer from the beginning. And you wish to do the desires of your father. And friends, I hope that's not your desire. I hope you will awake and receive the truth that Jesus loves everyone and came here to tell you that you are divine. You are one with him, and he and you are one with the Father. And we should forgive everyone and hold no one guilty, but forgive all men because they are our brothers and sisters. And we must have all things common. This is how we shall live, not in this political system. We're being destroyed by this political system. And the Constitution of the United States specifically states that you shall make no laws. Oh, yeah, but it goes on, Dave, and says that would restrict my freedom. So you can make laws that wouldn't restrict my freedom. Well, wait a minute. Any law restricts my freedom. I have the right. There's no laws in the Constitution. Oh, these are all the laws, right? And we don't make any more. No, it just says, here's all your rights. Liberty. Here's your freedom. And they shall not make any law against that liberty. What in the fiddly diddly are we doing, believing in a constitution that says we shall make no law? By the way, here's all your liberties, freedom to do anything you want, speak, oppose, tyranny, or whatever you want to do to pursue your happiness. Don't make any laws. And boom, every law they come up with. And by the way, they come up with these laws in order to get us to agree to this. They manipulate your mind through these events. So let me show you what's going on and who's running the show and things that you're just cognitively not aware of, that you refuse to see because you've been manipulated and hypnotized.
This is Trump's first wife, Ivana. She was born in Czechoslovakia and wanted a better life. So she first married an Austrian in a sham marriage to obtain Austrian citizenship, divorced that guy remotely, then came to the U.S. in 1976, married Trump, and became a citizen 12 years after she arrived. This is Trump's mother. Born in Scotland, she wanted a better life too. She boarded a boat and immigrated to the U.S. in 1930, worked as a, quote, domestic servant for 4 years, and also became a citizen 12 years after arriving here. This is Trump's third wife. As a child, Melania was born in Yugoslavia, came to the U.S. on a travel visa, but broke the law immediately by working here. 4 years later, somehow, she gets fast-tracked, and get this, gets an Einstein or genius visa and becomes a U.S. citizen 10 years after arriving. This is Trump's grandfather, who came to the U.S. from Germany to start a better life, breaking a Bavarian law, by the way, and eventually opened a restaurant and brothel in the U.S., breaking another U.S. law. This here is one of more than 100,000 immigrants that Trump has arrested because he too wanted a better life, just like members of the Trump clan. If Trump seriously wants to deport every immigrant who has come here and broken the law, he doesn't have to look very far. Do you know what I mean?
Jonathan Douglas Sapperman, the perpetrator of the 2022 Greenwood Park Mall shooting in Indiana, is a particularly ethnic name. Gabriel Wortman, the surname Wortman, can have this ethnic origin. It could be English or German. It's not exclusively of this ethnic origin. Well, Gabriel Wortman was the perpetrator of the 2020 Nova Scotia attacks, the deadliest mass SHOOTING in Canadian history. From April the 18th to the 19th, 2020, he killed 22 people in a 13-hour rampage across central and northern Nova Scotia. Wortman, a 51-year-old denturist, was ultimately shot and killed by police at a gas station. Single famous killers, such as Son of Sam, his nickname, whose actual name was David Berkowitz. He was a particular ethnic religion as well as ethnic by birth, and was raised in this particular ethnicity. George Zimmerman, who was all over the news because he killed Trayvon Martin with a gun. He was a guard. It was all over the news. Another one of these, I believe, orchestrated news events. And it's recognized as Ashkenazi. Baruch Goldstein, back in 1994, an American-Israeli physician who killed 29 Palestinians, wounded 125 others, while they worshiped at the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron. He was a follower of the far-right Kahanist movement. Yigal Amir, 1995, an ethnic extremist who assassinated Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, said he was acting under the distorted interpretation of the Torah. Or so they say, distorted, but literally the Torah says you should do these things. Yishai Schlissel, a Haredite ethnic person who was claiming to act in the name of their deity, stabbed and wounded 3 marchers at a Jerusalem gay pride parade in 2005. He was released from prison and committed another stabbing attack at the same event in 2015, killing a 16-year-old and injuring others. Yaakov Title, American-born Israeli, was convicted in 2013 of several acts of domestic terror, including the murders of 2 Palestinians in 1997 and a pipe bomb attack that wounded an Israeli intellectual in 2008. Joel Rifkin, a serial killer, active in New York in the early 1990s. Rifkin was convicted of murdering 9 women, though he is suspected of killing as many as 17. He was adopted into a ethnic family. David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, we talked about him. He was a serial killer. He killed 6 people, wounded 7 others in New York City in 1970s. Individuals of this particular ethnic group or religion have been involved in violent crimes and have made national headlines. Notable examples of violent criminals of this ethnic group are Arnold Rothstein, known as the Brain. Rothstein was notorious racketeer, gambler in New York City during the 20th century. He is best known for his alleged role in fixing the 1919 World Series. His extensive gambling and extortion activities were central to the national criminal network. Louis Lepke Buchalter, a major figure in the particular ethnic group crime syndicate. Buchalter led a gang involved in labor racketeering and extortion. He was eventually convicted of murder and was the only mob boss to be executed for his crimes. Meyer Lansky, an influential organized crime figure, Lansky helped develop a national and international gambling empire. He was known for his strategic mind and close association with Italian-American mobsters, making him a prominent figure in the history of the American organized crime. The National Crime Syndicate in the 1920s and the 1930s, the whole National Crime Syndicate was of this particular ethnic group. Along with Italian mobsters, formed alliances to create a national criminal network. A key factor was the partnership between these ethnic individuals, mobsters, Meyer Lansky, and Italian mobster Lucky Luciani, who saw the benefits of cooperation over constant turf wars. It's funny, we only know about Lucky Luciano, but we rarely ever hear about Meyer Lansky. The Murder Incorporated enforcement arm. The Murder Incorporated enforcement arm. It's like it's incorporated. Of course, that couldn't have been an illegal incorporation, could it? Well, the notorious contract killing group Murder Incorporated was a key part of this syndicate. It was founded and headed by a ethnic mobster, Louis Buchalter, and staffed by both ethnic individuals and Italian hitmen. Many people believe that the ethnic group ran the Italian mafia. The truth behind all of this is that the ethnic group that we're talking about literally took over the Catholic Church and the royal, mob family in Italy back in about 400 AD. Ashkenazi individuals from Bavaria, these Gothic individuals took over the Catholic Church in 405. Complementary skills, the alliance worked by utilizing the distinct strengths of its members. Ethnic gangsters like Lansky were often known for their financial and organizational skills. Yeah, financial because they ran the banks too, which is also organized crime. And they run the Cohens and the Levites, the Levites that run the Bar Association in London is also a organized crime syndicate. The Hollywood area is a organized crime syndicate run by Brooklyn. And the music and the rock and roll music industry was run by Anton Levi, who was definitely of this ethnic origin, as well as Crowley and the rest of them, started a crime syndicate here in America, and it's become our government. Because out of Aleister Crowley and Anton LaVey, which is the music industry, comes NASA, and also the CIA, the shadow government, and all the other three-letter words in the world. So it says, while Italian mobsters provided the physical muscle, the physical, so they were the grunts. You guys think the Italians are the ones in charge. No, they're just the physical grunts. They're nothing. They're run by Hillary Clinton's dad, who ran the mob and was not Italian, but was ethnic and ran Chicago. So Lancey's financial genius was a key. Financial genius? They simply loaned him the money because it was his brother that runs the whole syndicate worldwide. And he was a key asset to the syndicate, which earned him the nickname Mob's Accountant. Yeah. But I'm going to go ahead and stop here. Really, what else can I say? We could go through, I've done enough research to show you. We could do further research and go back to every crime that's ever been committed and show the connections and how it's all tied into big banks, the government, politics, politicians, religious pedophiles, or, inquisitions. All of it has one thing in common. They are all run by the ruling authority power that set up the law system, the lawyers, the Cohens and the Levites, and the politicians and the entertainment, the jesters all over the world entertaining you, manipulating your mind, the puppets that Satan has his hand up inside, because it says that Satan entered into Judas and he betrayed Christ. And that's happening right now. At least the other apostles understood that Jesus was the Christ. It took them a while. They had to kind of wake up. And on the road to Emmaus, their eyes were open and they recognized him. I hope, brothers and sisters, that today you will have your eyes opened and recognize the Christ within you. I am going to leave it here now and bid you adieu. May you have a wonderful evening. The Lord certainly loves every last one of you. There is not one person on this earth, whatever ethnicity you are, but you must follow his love and give his grace to all. You must receive the love of the truth that you might be delivered from this wrath that's coming, friends. We don't have a long
In a quarter
time to
mile,
come,
merge onto
but
US
get out of her,
36
my
East,
people,
Chicago.
if you do not want to share with her in her sins and partake of her plagues. Seek the Lord.